but they are bringing those same ideologies that are destroying our families and splitting our society apart into our countries, supporting with tons of money, from your taxes, so that abortion, so that gender ideology, so that all of these transitions become legal in our countries when this is not part of our culture.
For Ribbon News, and I'm currently in Mexico City, and behind me you can see Coyoacán is one of the area in Mexico City. Why I'm here? Because I took part of the CPAC 2024 here in Mexico. And the CPAC means the Conservative Political Action Conference. I spoke with multiple speakers, but today I'm presenting you one of the speakers. He is born in Argentina, living now in Ontario, Canada. Pablo Munez Iturrieta holds a doctorate in political philosophy and a master in philosophical psychology. He is a real critic of the actual culture. We talk about the transition on children, the current situation in Canada with all this gender ideology, and we even talk about Justin Trudeau. You don't want to miss that. But as I say, if you want to contribute to my journey, go over rebelcpac.com, and thank you in advance for your donation. And now, look at the interview.
We are facing one of the, I think, biggest crises in humanity when it comes to the question of who we are as human beings. Because when you talk about gender ideology, and I came across gender ideology in academia by reading those that basically propose queer theory. When I encounter authors like Judith Butler, where she denies the fact that we are humans, where basically she says that being a male, being female is the result of oppression, is the result of social construction, and therefore we need to free children. We need to free human beings from their own humanity, right? That's what basically the core of gender theory says. You are a cis woman, they would say. I'm a cisgender, person, because we haven't discovered really who we are. We are being oppressed by what society said. And therefore, when I was in university in 2002, 2003, I remember thinking, if this ever becomes a political platform, then we are in great danger. You have to fast forward to about 2010, 2011, when I really saw postmodern ideas being transferred from small circles of academics to political platforms like Obama or like the Liberal Party in Canada. What happened then is when these politicians accepted the tenets, they accepted the dogma of gender ideology, then we saw transform in politics a new type of narrative. A narrative where the political party is here to serve your desires, your wishes as whoever you want to be. You want to be a non-binary person, we are going to be there to back that up. We're going to give you the money so that you can transform your body. Now, if your parents, they have some common sense that they say, no, wait, my child is a boy, my girl is a girl, then we're going to put you in prison for not accepting that. So now we are facing an ideology that is very destructive, that denies who we are as human beings, as male and female, as men and women, but also that has the support of all the globalist institutions of the United Nations, of the World Economic Forum, of the World Health Association, and of political parties like the case of the Liberal Party in Canada, for example.
Mm-hmm. One of the main things that we were discussing a little bit previously, it was the fact that Justin Trudeau include in the Charter of Human Rights everything that's related with transgenderism. Example, the sport bodies go against transgender competing with women. Now they are actually against the law. Mm-hmm. So it's a real danger for women's spaces, and also for the future of children.
Right. So I think if you look at the development of gender ideology in Canada, the foundation of that is declaring gender identity as a human right. Because once you declare self-perception, believing whatever you want to be is a human right, then from there everything else follows. In the case of Canada, you have in the Code of Human Rights gender identity as one of the foundational issues. And therefore, the state becomes the one that will warranty your right to identify yourself as whatever you want to be. Now, if you look at gender theory, and gender theory says, no, we are not male or female, that's a social construction, you need to find your own gender, then the school system is being modeled to then teach children not how to read, not how to write, but to find their own gender identity. There could be hundreds of different identities. And therefore, I think that there is a trap in considering gender identity as a human right. That's the core question here. That's the core question. And a lot of people are going to say, but hey, you are speaking against human rights. I'm not speaking against human rights because these are false rights that have been enshrined into the law as being the foundational rights of our country or of our society or civilization, when they are not. They have a connection with psychological issues. Now, if a person comes and says, I self-identify as a dragon or as the moon or as the sun, the first thing we need to do is have some common sense and say, okay, there is something wrong with you psychologically. You need help. But in Canada, if a psychologist tries to help a person, they go to prison for 3 years. Look at what Jordan Peterson is going through now by losing his license.
The movement was already existing, but during COVID, it just exploded. And do you think it's mainly because children were vulnerable at home with screens and everything?
Yes, I actually wrote a book about that. My latest book has to do with the influence of social media on children's psychological well-being. Children are spending so much time on TikTok, on Instagram, and on different platforms, on Roblox and video games, that psychologically we see a huge effect on their well-being. And this is manifested in levels of anxiety, levels of depression, levels of self-harm. In Quebec, for example, and in the rest of Canada, in Canada they separate Quebec from the rest of Canada when it comes to statistics, but we can see how all of these issues have skyrocketed, especially after the pandemic. That leads to a lot of other issues that have to do with self-perception, that have to do with gender issues. In England, the data is very clear. There has been an increase of 5,343% in girls in cases of transition, and in boys is about 1,400% increase. In Canada, we don't have that data yet, but I'm pretty sure that is very similar or worse than in England. And of course, there is a connection between social media and how platforms as well are pushing for this gender ideology among children.
So talking about that, the main one who is actually pushing all this in Canada is Justin Trudeau. And
yes.
I want to know your thought on our Prime Minister.
Well, I think that Trudeau has to go out. The sooner the better. Trudeau is not just a very incompetent politician. He has proven to be a puppet of whatever the World Economic Forum wants to impose in Canada, but also he's doing a lot of harm in Latin America. And I'm talking as someone that came from Latin America. If you look at Foreign Affairs Canada and what they're doing in Argentina, what they've been doing in Mexico, in Colombia, in Costa Rica, in Panama, is basically a new form of ideological colonization. Trudeau not only has managed to destroy Canada ideologically, financially, but they're bringing those same ideologies that are destroying our families and splitting our society apart into our countries, supporting with tons of money, from your taxes, so that abortion, so that gender ideology, so that all of these transitions become legal in our countries when this is not part of our culture.
And now if we look at Javier Milei, that is the president of Argentina, we see a really big clash in between who is Justin Trudeau and who is Javier Milei. Do you think they like each other? Probably not.
Well, look at that. Milei is going totally against all the policies that Trudeau has imposed in Argentina, in Canada. And there is a little history. Trudeau had a really good relationship with the previous presidents of Argentina. And the previous presidents of Argentina were totally in line with whatever Trudeau wanted to impose in Argentina by promoting gender ideology, by promoting feminist rights. And when I say feminism, I'm not saying the right of women to be who they are. I'm talking about abortion, euthanasia, and so many other ideological things. The presidents of Argentina got along with Trudeau, but then you have a Milei that first day in office, he said no more of gender ideology, no more of Ministry of Gender Diversity and Sexual Orientations. We have to remove gender ideology from education. No more drag queens or none of that crap in our schools. It's the opposite of what Trudeau is doing. So I'm pretty sure that when it comes to an ideological debate, they are in the total opposites, for sure.
I've been sent here in Mexico City to cover the CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. I came here because it was important for us to give the voice to those conservative leaders here in the Latin world. But of course, there were other speakers. But it's not cheap to travel all the way here, and I need your help because all of you, we can do all this. Thanks in advance to go over rebelcpac.com to chip in what you can and to watch my report, my hard work on the ground. So I repeat, rebelcpac.com, and thank you for donating, same if it's just $1.